Hi guys, I am Creasy on the forums asked about how he could do a little problem that he has swapping elements that are objects on the screen, swapping their positions, and I'm assuming also orientations. He described a case where he has objects that are oriented or uh, distributed evenly around some central object, and he wants to randomly swap the position of two of the objects uh, in the uh, in the scene. So I haven't written a lot of script, so try not to be too brutal in the forums. But I sat here and I just Googled a bunch of things. I wrote some pseudocode on how to do it, and I've been wanting to force myself to start to learn Mel anyway. So I figured this is an opportunity to do that. So what I have here first of all in the scene is I've got a sphere at the center, and I just took and I created a NURBS curve, a linear NURBS curve around that, and then I just used and then I created 8 different objects so you can see things when they're swapping, and I distributed them evenly around the sphere. So the sphere, if I go over to the object list, is at the top, and the curve is at the bottom, and everything in between are the objects that are around the sphere. So I wrote a little program that takes your selection. Right, I listed the program in the forum. Here it is in my actual script editor. So what it does is it takes the current selection of objects, creates an array of that, gets the number of elements in the selection array. Then it comes down here and it randomly picks an index in the array, in the entire array, so 1 to the end of the array. If it's not the last element in the array, it swaps the object at the current index with the last element in the array. So it takes an object and it puts it, if it picks it from the array, it puts it at the end of the array. And then what I do is I pick another random number from all the remaining elements in the array, from 0 to the second to last element in the array. I pick one of those randomly, and I basically then, if it's not the second to last element in the array, the index that gets selected or generated, it will take and swap the object at that second index with the element that's second to last in the array. So in other words, the last two elements now are the elements that are the objects that are going to be swapped. And then the next thing it does is it prints the selection out with a little separator here so I can see what this is just for debugging. And then what it does is it calls a little procedure here called swap position, which takes the two last objects in the array, the last object and second to last object in the selection array, and it simply swaps their position and rotation. And here's the little function down here. I get the translate and rotate attributes for the first object, and then I take and set the translation and rotation attributes for the first object to be equal to the translation and rotation values of the second object, and then I take those temporary values that I stored from the first translate and rotate attributes of the first object, and I set the second object to have those attributes, and that's pretty much it. It just swaps the two position and rotation of the two objects at the end of the array. So if I can sort of squeeze this so we can see it, I'll just squeeze it like that. So you can see the script over here, and I've just selected the entire script. And so if I hold the control down and hit enter, it'll execute the script. And you see that the last two things in the script here, you saw two objects blink quickly, and that was it swapped the position of the cube and the cone. See, the last two objects in the list here are what gets swapped. So if I hit Control Enter again, and if you watch the screen carefully, you'll see that the position of the prism and the cylinder swapped. And if I hit Return again, the position of the cube and the torus swapped. And again, so every time I run the script, two elements around the sphere swap position and rotation. Right now their rotation is just the default 0, 0, 0, so nothing is, orientation's not changing, but the script would change them both. So anyway, that's the little script. It's probably not the best in terms of style, and there's probably better ways of swapping these, getting these attributes and swapping them. I would assume there's some way to get the attributes in some form of a vector where you can just do it in a single step rather than this brute force approach that I'm taking, but I just, everything that I've got here I basically learned in 10 minutes of Googling on the net. So, and it does the trick. How to turn it into some kind of a something you can put in your scripts folder and make it globally callable, that's a whole nother can of worms, but at least the pseudocode works, and you can get the basic idea of what's going on, hopefully, from the script. And if anybody out there who's really better at writing scripts in Maya wants to take a look at it and tell IamCreasy a better way to do it, or clean this one up, that would be great. Anyway, this has been Rick Malava, CTV RAM in the forums, and I hope this helps you out, IamCreasy.